Hello, welcome to another episode of Real Hawk Talk. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Hawk Blogger. And we got a good show tonight. We got some topics that I think are going to be a little bit spicy and are going to lead to some, I think, fun discussions. And we're going to have those discussions with two of the OGs, Evan Hill at Evan Hill HB, Nathan Ernst at Nathan E11. And Evan, man, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well. Still processing what happened on Sunday Night Football. And, I feel like emotionally as fans, we've had to quickly pivot towards another big game this Sunday. Thankfully, Gino's okay. So my hopes are dwindled, but they're still semi-alive. Man, I'll just say this. Kudos to you and Jeff for that post-game show because when you guys texted me, did you want to jump on? I was like, hell no. I do not want to talk about this football team. I was so devastated, so depressed. I stopped drinking in the third quarter. I was like, this is going to only cascade and just get worse. So I made a health conscious choice, but I'm doing well. It's good to see you guys.
Nathan, we did not get to talk to you. You were actually like, are we doing a post game? But I didn't see your message. And you are a lucky guy that you did not join that post game, because I was spitting like nails. I was so angry. And I was talking about this with Evan beforehand. I've stayed angry. I'm happy with my life. I'm happy. I love my family. I got exercise this week. I was like, I got to get back to working out. But that game really made me angry. And I have all the wide spectrum of emotions of games. I've been sad and disappointed, depressed, excited, all that stuff. But this game made me angry. I want to know what it made you feel.
Yeah, well, I actually went and I listened to that post-game show, and there was some really alarming stuff in there, including, I think, did you out yourself as a Burger King guy?
That was so funny.
That was really funny. But is that your go-to? Or is that
I will stand on this business that I will take Burger King over McDonald's every day.
I got to say, I think that was a crazier take 5 years ago, but I do feel like old BK has upped their game. So
I think BK burgers and fries are both better. And that is a very controversial take for most people, but
have you guys
I literally had a McDonald's across the street. I could have gone there, but I didn't. That's how much I just won't even go to McDonald's.
Have you had Burger King internationally, in any part of
Europe?
Well, every fast food restaurant is better internationally. I had McDonald's in India, and they have chutney burgers and stuff. It's incredible.
Burger King internationally is like a gourmet experience. Yeah. It's insane. It's out of this world.
Burger Royale.
Chatter will back me up. It is a real thing. It's a real thing.
Was that the main takeaway you had? Was the Burger King? Because I think that's that's probably the most interesting thing in that post game show. I
think it was actually the big thing. That and somebody reserving a Burger King for a party was so incredible.
So somebody in comments, I think, nailed probably what was going on, and it made me feel really bad that I was making a big deal of it. But they think it might have been an employee holiday party.
Yeah, maybe.
Which would make sense. And of course they should have an employee holiday party. I wish they just would have put employee holiday party. I've been like, God dang it, but okay. But closed for a private event, I'm like, on a Sunday night? Really? Anyway, so
my reaction to the game actually was, I think, quite a bit different than maybe everyone else's. I think the combination of having seen that game 4 times already this year,
mm-hmm.
and having it get out of hand so fast, being mm-hmm. so immediate, that first drive, I'm like, oh, they're getting bullied. Oh no. And so I think I had a lot of times to just prepare myself and come to peace with it. So I was not just really mad. It was just very I had more of an enlightened Zen approach to it. It was okay, I think we have our answer. They've been the defense has been awesome for weeks, and like, you know, I was getting really hopeful, but then this was a big test, and they just this was not it's a C plus, it's a B minus. Like, what are they? Maybe no. This was you got 40% on this test. You flunked it hard, and so there's something I think you know, peaceful about it, really. Like, yeah. So that was really, I think, my takeaway. It was just immediately like, oh, I've seen this. I know what's happening here. Okay, this is.
I think I haven't really like spent a lot of time reflecting on why I was so frustrated and why I've kind of stayed that way. But I think part of it is that we have seen this multiple times this year. And the only way to truly respond to that game, if you have any objectivity at all, is that the Seahawks just might not be very good. Like, that's the only objective way to respond to that game. They might be good enough to beat like mediocre teams, but they're not. Like, when we've seen the Seahawks in past versions of Seahawks teams that are good, they struggle, they do their thing, they start finding a formula that works, they build it over time, they start winning, they start beating their own divisional opponents, and then they kind of announce themselves. Like, it's happened over and over and over again when I've watched the Seahawks over many generations, because I'm that old.
You know what's frustrating about
this one? This one, they had that like crystal, like perfect opportunity in front of them, and not only did they lose, they weren't competitive. And so it was like, all the things that were good were bad in this game. And it's like, that was just really disappointing. All right, now, Nevin, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think what was frustrating for me, particularly about that game, is Seattle's defense, as much as they got manhandled on those first two drives, they stiffened up in the second half of the game, and they didn't give up a touchdown drive until Sam Howell threw that interception, right? Yeah. And my mind just goes to, what if Seattle's defense had come to play in those first couple of possessions? What does that game look huge? Like? It feels like we probably still wouldn't have won, but it would have felt a lot more competitive, I think. So I agree with Nathan, though. There's a little bit of peace that comes with like, okay, this is what this team is. They've been kind of up and down defensively throughout the year. There's been some early bright spots with the offense in the regular season, but they just might not be that good of a football team, and that's okay.
But how are they not? Like, that's the thing that kills me is like,
yes,
they have really good players on this team.
I think so too.
Byron Murphy is, young, still up and coming, good player. Leonard Williams, awesome. Derek Hall, good player, getting better. You had
Mafe, Ernest Jones, Julian Love, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah. Like, and Reek is Reek, but like very talented. We're
going to talk about Reek.
Solid player. Witherspoon, we were hoping like, defensive rookie of the year last year, like Depoy. Like, I mean, there's like big hopes for this dude, right? And like he's touched on greatness at least, and been a really solid player. So like, and the offense has, I know DK is a little hobbled, but like there's players on offense too. JSN is really good. The tight ends are fine. Like the offensive line is obviously a problem, but like, and that, maybe just erases everything they have on offense, but they have talent. They should not be.
They do.
How much more talented can we expect this team to be? Like,
go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
No, I guess I don't know. Like, barring like drafting the next Patrick Mahomes, or like, yes, like they could do something crazy and recreate the LOB, a historic defense. But like, how much, like reasonably, like how much better can we expect the talent on this football team to get?
Yeah, I think part of it, when I look at it, if you had asked me come up with the worst possible game script for this game of what happens, I would have told you they would not be able to stop the run. They would not be able to pass protect. They would turn the ball over in the red zone again. Like, they would actually show some ability to run the ball, but forget to do that, decide not to do that. And you'd have Geno get injured. Like, I mean, there was a lot that was like really worst case variance in this game. And I don't think that's like a probability thing. I think it's just like, man, there's a lot of bad crap that piled up in this game. And I'm not ready. Like, this is the title of this show is Cope or Hope. I'm coping. I don't know. I'm not ready to give up that this team is good. But I don't think you can objectively look at what's happened to this point and say that they are. Like, you just can't.
Can I do a quick trivia on Sunday night?
Yeah.
How many pressures do you think Lamea allowed? How many pressures? And I believe it was on 46 pass blocking snaps. 46. Okay. How many pressures do you think he allowed?
Didn't he have a pass protection grade of like 1.7 in this?
He did. Yes, he did. True. But the question is, how many pressures did he allow? In chatter, I want guesses. And don't look at the chat, Nate or Brian.
All right. I mean, I can think of like 4 or 5 just off the top of my head. I feel like so. I don't know.
I'll say 7.
I'll go 9.
11.
Sheesh.
11.
But Evan, that must mean that they were going against one of the top pass rushing teams in the NFL, right?
Bottom 3 edge rushing unit.
Bottom 3 overall pass rush.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So you guys seem like you're pretty much on the Cope train. Is that right?
No, I wouldn't say I'm coping. I don't think I'm coping as much as I'm just like out on them being anything, being an interesting playoff team.
Let me put it this way. I still have hope they could win the division.
That's where I am. And we're going to get to our predictions at the end of this show, which may be a little confusing, but I'm not out on that. I never was in on them being interesting in the playoffs for what it's worth. Never.
Mm-hmm.
If they'd won this game?
Yeah. I honestly, like, maybe a 1 win, like they host a home game and they get a win. Like, it was never that for me. I wasn't like, oh, they're like maybe going to join the contender crew. It was just that I thought that they were building something that they could, like the 2012 squad that finished like great, but they had some clear flaws. They had to address them in the offseason. And then they came back and were a much more complete team. Like, you get a guard or two, and maybe this team is different. Maybe you get an OC that actually fits with what Mike McDonald wants, and maybe things are different. But that narrative got just squashed.
I would say the 2012 team was an interesting playoff team to me, though. Like, interesting, not like confident in them, not like, oh yeah, sure, they're a favorite, but interesting, right?
Yeah.
The like last 5 Pete Carroll playoff teams were not interesting playoff teams.
Maybe it's more like the 2004 Seahawks that lost to the Rams team at home.
Yes,
in the playoffs. Maybe that squad. There's another story that came out of this game that I think has gotten a lot of pub, and let me play this for you. I think I should, and hopefully I've picked the right. Part of this press conference. DK Metcalf spoke today, and he was asked about home field and winning a game. Hopefully you guys can hear this.
And be supportive. I know it was the first quarter, second or third play of the game, and it got crazy loud in there. And I looked around, and there was a lot of Green Bay fans. So they did a great job traveling, but just wishing us 12s didn't sell as many tickets as they did to make sure we kept the home field advantage. But yeah, man, it would mean a lot just to take this last one home and finish out the season strong, so we can play again in front of them in the playoffs.
Okay, DK. Nathan.
I don't know how to react to that. He's not wrong. I don't know where I stand on all this selling. I mean, it sucks. Obviously, it sucks. But, like, it feels weird having a player say it.
Nathan.
What?
We heard "Go Pack, Go" chants when the Packers were on offense through the broadcast in the second flipping quarter.
It was earlier than that, I think.
It may have been. It may have been. That's when I caught it first.
So I will cope on this one for sure, because in the broadcast they said it too. Maybe it was Collins or somebody said it, but like on offense, it was on offense when the Seahawks were on offense, and that's when Seahawks fans are quiet, and that's when opposing fans. But man, they were loud. They were really loud. I mean, I don't know. It really sucks that that like we have so many opposing fans in the stadium. And Brian, it's cool that like you're actually trying to do something about it, but I don't know. I don't know where I come down on all the.
My take is Brian didn't work hard enough last week.
Here we go. We know who really failed the team.
No, I got a lot of thoughts on this. I'll say the first thing: win a damn game, show up, and then ask why the fans are selling their seats. But to me, it's a bad friggin' look when you got players calling out fans when they're 3-5 at home, and they've lost to the Giants. They've like put out some absolute stinkers out there. You think that the sound in that stadium would have been different if they hadn't fallen down behind 14-0, if the offense was nowhere, if DK was actually catching touchdowns instead of ghosting in that game? Like, look in the mirror a little bit before you start calling out fans who, by the way, I'm not thrilled with people selling their tickets either. But there's a lot of reasons people are selling tickets that don't have to do with loyalty, that have to do with economics, that are not multimillionaires, that are making decisions. And the team has set pricing for that game literally 9x, the cheapest game of the year. It was 9 times that price. There are so many fans that are like, I have to sell that game because it covers the rest of my seats. It covers my Christmas presents. It covers whatever. And the team's making that choice. And these people sell those tickets in August. They sell those tickets before the season starts. And the Packers fans make their decision to travel way back then, the way a lot of us do. So I'm honestly a little pissed at the discourse about this, about like season ticket holders or shit and it's their fault. That's not from a defensive I don't care about that, like being a season ticket holder, but I've talked to a lot of these folks, like literally 100+ folks. I think there's a lot more nuance to this than just Seahawks have lost their home field advantage. Like, I just think that that's a really bullshit, very simplistic perspective. And it kind of annoys me.
Well, the dynamic pricing that they launched, that's a new thing, right? It didn't always used to be that way, is my understanding, right?
No, it did not. Started in 2014.
Okay, so a little bit. Okay, so not recent though.
No, but the differences in prices have become massive. They did not used to be that big of a difference.
I guess, like, here's my take on this, and I don't think I have a problem with season ticket holders who sell like a game or two a year. It's the people who get on the waiting list and sell all of their home game tickets for purely profit motivating factors. And by the way, anecdotally, I do know people like this because the prices have gone the disparities have gone so wide, particularly when they've been successful in the Pete Carroll era, that it was almost like a stock investment. Like every single year, it was almost like some passive income, and that bothers me. But I don't mind the 1 or 2 games a year. Not everybody can make every single home game every season, especially as you get older, have a family, kids, all that sort of stuff. I get it, but it's the primary. I'm using this as a profit motivating or profit central sort of like strategy that bothers me. That does bother me. And I don't know how much
I get that.
But
here's the thing. Even if they were selling them,
yeah.
Do Seahawks fans have a chance to buy them?
They absolutely do.
Why is demand lower among Seahawks fans than it is among these visiting fans?
It's because people aren't excited about the Seahawks, and they haven't.
They're not as excited about the Seahawks. It's also like this is a place that other people are choosing to come as a destination, and it's kind of in some ways, it's their own creation of this problem. People want to experience a game at Lumen Field, and they make it their trip. But I mean, I see people that are the other part of this is tickets are so expensive now. The type of people that own tickets
100%
are dramatically different. And the percentage of their income that's going to these tickets and like how important it is to them is different. And so that is frustrating. And people are like, well, give it to people on the Blue Pride wait list or someone else. Well, that doesn't change the economic thing. Like the folks that would be the most passionate about these games still wouldn't be able to afford the ticket prices that they have now.
Unless they sell a couple games to offset the cost.
Exactly. And which games are they going to sell? The ones that get the most money.
And that's why, like totally agree. If you're just selling all your tickets, like, screw you. Like, you suck. You're an ass. Yeah, I mean, that's terrible. But like, it would be interesting to see what the breakdown is, because my guess would be, and maybe I'm way off on this, is that a lot of people are like, if you couldn't sell tickets or something, if you restricted this somehow, you would actually lose a lot of ordinary fans who have to do that to offset, right? And so they get to go to 5 or 6 games instead of just having an entire Super Bowl crowd for every home game. But yeah, I think a lot of what you're saying makes a lot of sense, Brian. Like, and the other thing, like going back to DK being the one that says it, like, yeah, it sucks that your home field advantage isn't very strong. Like, that's not an excuse. You have to play half your games on the road. You're probably going to have to play.
And they're 5-1 on the road.
Yeah. And like most teams don't get to play the majority of their playoff games at home. That's, you have to be pretty special to get that. And so, yeah, bummer that there was opposing fans there. Like, you still have to play. Like, you still got to do your job. So, and yeah, like, I don't know how hard to, like, DK is one of the bright spots on this team, so I don't know how much of this is on him, but like, yeah, the team's just not very good. They're exciting, very good right now. And so, who do you blame for that?
I mean, if you really want to fix this, you need the Seahawks to be like bad for 5-6 years, like really bad, to where the casual fans don't want to go and they just sell, and the ticket prices stabilize, or at least maybe salaries catch up a little bit. And then maybe you can get some people. But here's the thing. I think even if the team starts playing really well, I mean, it's not the same fan base it was in 2005. Like, it just isn't. A lot of folks that I've talked to started their season tickets in 2013, like 2014. And if your first foray as a season ticket holder was the best era in the history of the franchise, it's going to be like, one, it's a little bit hard for you to appreciate and like really get excited. And two, like, I don't know if you really appreciate the adversity and like what your role is in all this. Like, I think it was very clear in the 2005 run, the fans were a major part of that experience. The 2013 Seahawks were going to do what they're going to do no matter what, in a lot of cases. So I don't know. Evan, I know you've been vocal on Twitter about like being pissed at fans for selling. So I thought we might go back and forth a little bit. And I thought,
I think there's another element here of like, you are right. Like the ticket prices have gone out of control. I did some research today and I shared it in our chat. We have the highest concession prices in the NFL.
But you get what you pay for, right, Brian?
What is it? What are you talking about? I'm missing it.
The food. I mean, the food and the concession situation at Lumen's amazing. So
no, it has gotten nicer that it's all like, self checkout. That is nice.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know what they should do? And I saw this idea floated on somewhere, Twitter, YouTube, I don't remember where. They should sell non-transferable upper bowl season tickets at a reduced rate for local fans only.
They do.
Non-transferable?
Well, I don't know if they're not transferable. It's not that.
Because that would be the key point, is you have to go to the games.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure on that. There are teams that have taken tickets away from season ticket holders because they can track now with mobile tickets how often they're transferred, or if they sell them. Somehow they can track if they sell them above face value in some places. I don't understand that, but they pulled it. Like the Dolphins did it. The Broncos have done it. I'm all for that. I got no problems with that.
Yeah.
The Seahawks do have part of Paul Allen's initiative that he got passed for stadium funding included a stipulation that the Seahawks always had to have 10% of their seats offered at the lowest price of any NFL ticket. And so there's a bunch of $77 tickets, which is still like, that's the lowest. It's the lowest price, man. When I bought tickets, I know this is old man stuff. When I bought tickets in 99, that was Paul Allen first started, or 97 actually. It was $10 a ticket. $200 for 2 seats for the whole season. I don't expect him to get to that, but I'll tell you what, being up in the freaking nosebleeds with those mothers, like, it got real up there, man. Those were like rabid fans, and it's a different class, man. It is. I've sat in the 100 level. Personally, I would never sit in the 100 level again. Like, not interested. But yeah, it's a real thing. I think it's way too simplistic just to be like, man, the Seahawks fans suck now. I think that's really absolving the team and the business of culpability and what's going on here. And I think a lot of it has to do with them.
I mean,
go
ahead, Nate.
I was gonna say the other thing is too, like, we're being a little hypocritical here. Seahawks fans generally are. How long have we been like, oh, you can hear Seahawks chants in the Cardinal Stadium? How cool is that? Like the Seahawks, I mean, in credit to Seahawks fans for traveling, like it's been other stadiums too, but like every year, like that Arizona game is almost the 9th home game. And no one has ever cried about the injustice of it all when we were doing it to other teams. So like, it's a bit of a taste of our own medicine.
Yeah, but we retired this number and we put it in the rafters. You know what I mean?
The 12?
Like, yeah, are other teams doing that?
I mean, Texas A&M did it.
Yeah, it's
here's the reality.
Yeah.
You know what the ultimate cure to this is? Win football games and put a good product on the field.
Yeah.
People will want to go to those games. They will want to go to that Sunday night football game. And the reality is Seattle has not been, I think, winning at people's expectations for a while now.
Did the Packers fans in the stands keep the Seahawks from running the ball? Did the Packers fans in the stand cause them to score 3 points in the first half or whatever it was? Did the Packers fans in the stands keep the defense from being able to stop the run in the first half? Like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And yes, it would be nice if it wasn't the case, but like, do your job and then you can talk about other people's jobs. Is my basic idea. Of course, I spend all my time telling other people what to do in their jobs. So that's kind of my head.
I will say this, that DK quote came off much better, I think, in the press conference than it did over like seeing it in writing.
Yeah.
That was my take.
I mean, yeah.
You guys seem to disagree?
I just know I'm a little closer to this right now. So like when he said that, I was kind of like, dude.
I mean, it's a bad look.
I almost asked a question that would have put him in an awkward situation with his own like owner, like not ownership, but like business management. Like, do you think that if ticket prices weren't what they were, that you might have more Seahawks fans able to afford to go or not feeling like they need to sell? Like, come on, man. Do you think, anyway, do you think if you guys were playing better, if you were ahead, that you wouldn't have heard the Green Bay fans as much? Like, I can't ask that, obviously, but that was what was going through my mind.
Did you consider making a play and shutting the Green Bay fans up?
What's the worst thing I could have said right then? What would have been the worst? Yeah. Yeah. He's a big dude. He already had his fun with me earlier this year. So, let's talk about another little spicy topic. Tariq Woolen. Let's read. I could have played this. I didn't quite get on my stuff fast enough. But let me look up Brady Henderson. Actually, I can look up my own profile. I think I put something in here.
I'm going to say something I regret. I just know it.
Okay.
Just know it.
Okay. This is what. Oh, wait. Sorry. No. That's not the one. This is what Mike McDonald said about Tariq Woolen earlier today. Mike McDonald had a frank assessment of the way Tariq Woolen played Sunday night and has been playing in his third season. He was asked today about coaching points he's making with the cornerback. The short version of his answer, lock in on every play. The longer version of the answer, well, let me see. Yeah. Okay. It's a play-to-play mentality. When he's locked in, I think he's as good as it gets. And then when he's not as locked in, then that's when some technique errors show up. But it has nothing to do with his ability. It's all about just the approach pre-snap. Yes, Evan?
This is a grown-ass man. This is a grown-ass man. His third year in the NFL, clearly one of the most talented corners in the NFL, had a dynamite rookie year. This is his third year, grown-ass man in the NFL, and his head coach is basically saying, Reek, like, please be motivated. Please.
I don't know if that's...
And then I have fans on Twitter saying, I saw him at the club on Friday and Saturday night in Seattle before the game. Really, guys? This guy's supposed to be a defensive leader on our football team. This is not a guy that you dump top elite corner money into, or just not even top elite money. This is not a guy that you allocate serious capital to as a cornerstone of your football team in an upcoming extension. Nuh-uh. Too inconsistent. Got picked apart on Sunday Night Football. I'm out. Not interested.
Nathan, you see you have a different perspective.
Well, I was going to defend him, but if he's, out the night before game, then maybe less so. But the pre-snap comment there was interesting to me. Like, I don't know if he's saying that he's not locked in, like, throughout the week, not locked into what they're trying to do in the game, or like not understanding the defense or anything like that, as much as if there's maybe pre-snap things he's not reading correctly. And that's where this variance can come from. If defenses are able, or I'm sorry, offenses are able to confuse him. But maybe there's more, maybe I'm being too generous on that front.
Well, I think about it more what I've heard from McDonald about Woolen during like other games this season. There's been games where he said, I felt like this was the best Reeks looked all year. He was really locked in. He was really focused on the details. And then there's been other games where he's had this similar kind of sentiment. And all I can come to, the conclusion I can come to from that is, it's not a pre-snap thing. I think it's a knowing in his assignment and executing his assignment as designed, like maybe like making sure he's hearing the play call properly every single time, like no mistakes. And McDonald's got a high bar for those kind of details. And I did a terrible job of asking this question today. I was kind of trying to get at it in an indirect way, but I was like, McDonald actually said something like, that was a doozy. I was like, you've got some players in the NFL that are elite athletes, but maybe are not as consistent play in, play out. You've got other players in the NFL that are really good athletes, but are really consistent assignment correct, play in, play out? Are there certain positions where, it's more important to be assignment correct all the time than it is to be an elite athlete? And he was like, what? Didn't get any insights from that. But I was thinking about the safety spot, and I was thinking about the corner spot in particular. And I think the cornerback spot, you do need elite athletes. Like, I don't think you can get away with mediocre athletes and have them be great corners. I do think you can have pretty good athletes at safety and have them be great safeties. And so, because I think, unfortunately, Woolen, like, one of the things he's really good at is man coverage, like press, man coverage. If you do that all the time, he'd be friggin' amazing. But they mix coverages. They play a lot of zone. And this is a guy that has not been a good zone coverage corner in his career yet.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because he was a receiver in college and he's still learning the position. I think we've tried to give him that grace. But to your point, Evan, it's year 3, dude. And it feels like maybe there's things there that are not about just it taking time. Maybe it's just not like taking it seriously enough.
That's what it feels like. And this is just, these are not comments I expect to be hearing about what is supposed to be one of our defensive like cornerstones. I don't hear him saying this about Devin Witherspoon, Mike Mack. I don't hear him saying this about Josh Jobe, who just got elevated off the practice squad like 8 weeks ago. I don't know what he was doing before. Was he even a football player? I don't even know where he was at. What was he doing before 8 weeks ago? He seems locked in. He seems motivated. Mike Mack's not pulling him aside and being like, bro, lock in every single play. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. And then, I'm sorry. I'm done. I can't say anything more about this. This is so infuriating to me. And by the way, we talk about man coverage and zone coverage. Seahawks plays man coverage 19% of the time. Do we want to talk about this upcoming matchup with the Vikings? Because
We do.
Jordan Addison and Sam Darnold are like one of the best quarterback receiver duos in football when it comes to total EPA expected against zone coverage. So Tariq Woolen, who struggled on Sunday Night Football, might have an interesting matchup this upcoming week. So he might not be out of the gates just yet.
Let's talk about that for a second, then we'll get to Patreon questions and some super chats and stuff. But it occurred to me today, like, first of all, the fact that the Vikings, everyone talks about the Packers quarterbacks, like they just go from one great quarterback to another. For the Vikings to go from Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison is pretty freaking amazing.
And TJ Hawkinson.
But like those two receivers are like both of those sets were two of the best in football when they were there. And it's interesting, we were talking about DK earlier. They get the ball to Justin Jefferson, and Justin Jefferson gets open against all teams and all coverages, it seems like. Jordan Addison's doing pretty well as well. Is there really an excuse for like why DK disappears for a month? Is that something that you just chalk up to DK? Do you chalk it up to Ryan Grubb? Do you chalk it up to DK's maybe not his full self? But if that's the case, then we've seen this in past years when he was fully healthy. So what is it about DK Metcalf that doesn't allow him to be like an unguardable player like that is a threat every single week?
I don't think this should be a huge surprise. Like, there's a reason why DK went in the second round, right? Like, we all joked about his 3-cone and stuff when he got drafted. He's incredible at certain things, but he's not a well-rounded receiver. And that's fine. Like, he doesn't have to be, if he was who he is and he could like run routes the same way Justin Jefferson, like, he'd be the best receiver of all time, right? Like, so does he have limitations? Like, yeah. And does that keep him from being like a game in, game out force? Maybe, but I don't think he still impacts the game with what he can do and how defenses have to respect that. So I don't know. I don't know how hard we should be on DK.
That's interesting.
Let's do some Patreon questions.
Sure.
Nathan will bring these up. It's patreon.com/hawkblogger. You too can ask us questions each and every week on the Slack channel. So Nathan, what do we got this week?
All right, Brian, I think this one's for you. Hawks fan Matt Man wants to know, with what you've gleaned of McDonald's personality and coaching style, is it possible that he isn't asserting himself enough with Grubb to adequately convey what he wants with the offense? I've also heard you say, he needs Grubb and Mike are not a good match, and I'm curious if you I'm sure you've talked about this elsewhere, but if you wanted to expand on that maybe too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is conjecture, so this isn't, I wouldn't consider this like real reporting, but as far as the question from Matt, I would just say it was very notable in training camp when we would ask Mike Macdonald about offense. He would pretty jokingly talk about, like, I'm not thinking about that. Like, he was all about the defense. He would just kind of like set it completely aside. And it wasn't a joke. He wasn't really, it was very clear he was not spending a lot of time about the offense. And then the season started, and all of a sudden, no, like, I absolutely have a say. And yes, I'm involved in play calling, like on the headsets or whatever. Like, things changed. And so I think that's one of the things he will privately say was an area of growth and learning this year, which is like, he's got to coach the whole team and he's got to have a philosophy on offense that he makes happen, and that he didn't have somebody necessarily that he could just hand that off to and delegate it to and have that happen this year. And so, I don't know if being more assertive would change what seems like a philosophical divide. Like, Mike being more assertive and telling Ryan Grubb to run the ball more, what that looks like is the San Francisco game in Seattle, where they just ran the ball repeatedly for 1 yard over and over again. And it was like, that's not offense. But then when you let Ryan Grubb like really just be himself, you get this last game where, again, you get to the 13-yard line, 3 straight passes. You were in the Jets game, inside the 4-yard line, 5 passes inside the 4-yard line. You have 3rd and 2. Every 3rd and 2 in this game was a pass. Like, I've heard too much from Mike Macdonald saying, if you want to have a run game, you got to commit to it. It's not a chicken and egg. You got to commit to it. Well, that is not at all what's been happening. And I've also heard him say, we asked, like, what makes a really good red zone offense or a tough red zone offense to defend? Run game. Like, he said that, like, not that many weeks ago. So you put all these things together, and it's kind of this unintentional critique of his own OC. And it's hard to imagine that's just going to, like, bridge with an off season.
I was joking about them firing Grubb and just moving Jay Harbaugh over, but it sounds like what you're saying is he wants himself a Harbaugh man. He wants that Michigan offense.
I mean, I think Greg Roman would be his ideal OC, most likely. Like, I could totally see him wanting that, but don't know. I see one super chat here that's related. Dogzilla Monster says, Coach Max said he and Grubb are on the same page. What do you expect? I mean, he's not going to say, no, like, we hate each other and we don't like, I mean, I don't think they hate each other, but
that might be the page they're on, though. Like, they're on the same page of hating each other.
Yeah. If you're really listening to Ryan Grubb's press conferences and you're really listening to Mike Macdonald's when it comes to things related to each other, it doesn't sound like, compare how he talks about Ryan Grubb to how he talks about Aden Dirty. It's a pretty big difference.
That's a good point.
Evan, Sam Brown wants to know, I'll put a scale on this 1 to 10 here. Confidence level in John Schneider's ability or willingness to upgrade the interior offensive line this offseason.
Through any mechanism, draft, free agency, trade, whatever.
Yep.
Oh boy. It's pretty low. I mean, it's got to be 0 or 1. I don't know.
You sound like Derek.
Is this like a shocking answer? I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of like examples where they've invested in interior offensive line.
Luke Chuckle.
They drafted Jermaine Ifedi, who's a left tackle for the Bears or something, by the way.
Did
Really?
you guys hear when this was reporting like that I've got more context about what they meant by overdrafted and overpaid? Did you hear that?
I think you maybe texted it, but didn't like publicly say it. But you should.
I did. I talked about it. I talked about it on a show a while ago. The reason I think it matters a little bit is like, I think it's pretty clear that they actually value that position, but that the way that they don't value it as much as other positions. And if you look at the market and you say, okay, we could draft a 3rd round right guard in the 1st round because that's where they're getting drafted, or we could give a mediocre guard a top tier free agent contract. That would mean we couldn't spend that money on Leonard Williams or couldn't spend that money on Charles Cross or pick whatever you think is like Boye Mafe. I think that there's some validity to at least that notion that because the market's so messed up and it's so thin, that if you want to actually get the guys in that you're going to sign for that, I don't want them necessarily, like, I still would not have wanted them to do the Damian Lewis contract personally. Like, that was not a contract I would have signed. But I would have signed the John Simpson deal for sure.
Yeah, I think the problem is not passing on the 3rd round prospect in the 1st round. It's drafting the undrafted free agent prospect in the 3rd round. Like, because it's not that they're not like Posick was a 2nd round pick and Haynes is a 3rd round pick and Bradford was a 3rd or 4th round pick. Yeah, so like it's not like they're not spending draft capital on guys.
Yeah,
they're just picking bad players.
Yeah, that I totally, I think that's very fair.
Yeah. All right, Brian.
Real quick, not so fun fact. I was doing some over the cap research while we were just talking about guards. Kevin Zeitler. I know Brian loves him, but I have a love affair with Kevin Zeitler, and I just want you to know his cap hit for the Lions this year, and he's having a career year with the Lions. He's playing out of his mind, by the way. He has a lower cap hit than Jason Myers with the Seahawks.
See, this is why paying kickers is dumb.
Well, thanks for self-funding, Evan. I appreciate that very much.
Okay. Brian, old school Seahawk. He said, it's really cool that on top of everything else you work so diligently to create and oversee the Seahawks fan ticket exchange. Sadly, the reward was a shit show on prime time, and this L seemed to hit a little harder. And then a question for Evan. What kind of pie do you put on your face for Christmas? I don't know. I should have read this one all the way through before I asked it.
Do you know what that's in reference to?
No.
Okay.
It's in the chat. People can access Evan pie emoji.
Oh my God, I saw that the other day. When did you add that?
Oh, I don't know. Soon after it happened.
I saw my face just being spammed in the chat, and I was like, "What's happening here?" I don't know. I love blueberry pie, so
that would be good. So if the Seahawks, would it take them beating the Vikings, or would it take them winning the division for you to pie face again?
If the Seahawks win the division, I'll do something that makes throwing pie in my face look childish. I will do something far worse.
I still don't have any context on this. What do we do?
After the 49ers game, we did post-game show, and Evan warned me that he was going to demonetize the video, and sure enough, F-bombs up and down the opening. And we said, there's other ways to help if the video gets demonetized. And someone said, I think Evan said, if someone donates $100, I'll take this pumpkin pie and rub it all over my face. And he did it. If you haven't seen it, Nathan, you should, and you also shouldn't.
This is what I get for not being consistent about watching the post game shows.
Yes, participating. You should be on the post game show.
It's true. Okay. Amy Holmes asked about. We talked about this. So I don't know if we want to get into it, but she says, as much as I appreciate the way decoy Metcalf tilts the field, can't a creative OC find a way to give him the ball more than 3 times? I don't know, Brian or Evan, if you have any more you want to add on to that. I do think you can give him the ball more, but I do think he's, like I said, a limited player, a limited, very, very good player.
I thought it was interesting today. McDonald talked about what makes Addison and Jefferson so good is that they play all the positions and they have the most complete route tree. And it was an unintentional self-own as well about, I think, DK to some extent, right? Like he kind of complained a little bit about Grubb asking him to learn all the positions this year. That was more work. But then you also have to assume his route tree is much more limited than some of these guys. So even that, I still feel like there should be ways to get him more involved than there have been, personally.
Chris Bailey, Brian wants to know, where do Kobe and Julian rank regarding missed tackles for safeties? They seem consistent in preventing the big runs. I don't know if you have that number handy.
I can look it up. Take me just a second. Among safeties specifically?
Whatever is easy for you. But yeah, if you can get safeties.
Missed tackle percentage or total missed tackles. So missed tackles, you'd probably be surprised by who has the most missed tackles at safety in the NFL. I'll give you a hint. He just signed a very big contract.
Oh, Budda Baker.
Really?
Yeah. Budda Baker has 26 missed tackles as a safety. That
Has
is
he always done? Oh,
9 more than the next safety.
is that Julian Love?
It's not. His Geno. This is interesting. Geno Stone, Kyle Hamilton are the next 2. As far as Seahawks go, you got to go down a ways.
While you're scrolling, has Budda Baker always done the jump up from being on his back thing?
Oh, I don't know. That was pretty cool.
He did it twice in that game, and I don't really remember him doing that before.
What about Brock Purdy doing that jump thing to try to pass against the Rams? Did you see that play?
I didn't.
Oh my God, Nathan, you have to see that play. It is hilarious.
Is it not just a normal jump pass? What did he do?
No, he jumps. You don't even know what he's doing, and then he comes down and gets sacked or something. It was a really, really weird play. The answer, Julian Love is 34th among safeties with 9 missed tackles. You might be surprised that the number 1 Seahawks safety in missed tackles is actually Rayshon Jenkins with 10, despite the fact that he's played a lot less snaps.
Are you just putting Jamal Adams slander up on the screen right now?
Yes, absolutely.
I should never have given Evan admin authority over what goes on the screen.
All right,
bad choice by me.
Last one here. Colin has a question for all of us. We can rapid fire through these. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your concern level for Charles Cross looking into the future and upcoming contract year? Evan?
I'm going to let Brian handle this one first.
1 to 10, 10 being most concerned?
Yes.
6.
That's fair. I mean, this may be a blessing in disguise if we can get him at a discount. A little cheaper.
That's gonna happen.
Not going to happen.
I know.
You've seen the friggin' offensive line
depth
in this league?
It's coping. Probably around a 6.5, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say 5. What is he like? Is he going to absolutely break the bank? I get the impression that he's going to get paid, but he's not going to. It's not going to be obscene.
I don't know. I would expect him to, if not set the market, but he's a 23-year-old. He's super young, and there's at least a chance he'll be in the Pro Bowl conversation this year. If that happens, I think his price, there's just not a lot of 23-year-old Pro Bowl left tackles.
His draft stock also plays a factor.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think? So let me put it this way. Do you think he's going to be paid like a top 10 left tackle?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure.
Would you say top 5?
Probably.
Okay. So you're going to be paying him $24 million a year.
Yeah, that doesn't scare me at all.
I think that's about right.
Honestly, I'm comfortable paying that. I really am. You bank on his growth.
The reason I was at a 6 on that answer is just because he hasn't been as good as I had hoped. Maybe like he would be better with better guard play next to him, but that's my only it's a little disappointing. He had a tough game this weekend.
He's always been a little disappointing, I feel like, but only relative to our hopes and dreams. I don't think he's ever been a bad player.
No,
it's just been okay.
Yeah, and so even if nothing changes and you drop $25 million on okay left tackle, I don't think that's the end of the world. So Colin goes on, says he's been healthy, 4th in snaps, has good PFF grades, 9th overall, and 9th overall, 13th pass blocking, 17th run blocking. More stats here too, but yeah, I think we covered it. I think that is it for
awesome
Patreon questions.
Thank you, Nathan. Thanks for everyone over at patreon.com/hawkblogger asking us questions in the Slack channel. And we will turn our attention to this Vikings game. We will get to some of these super chats as well, but let's talk Vikings. Evan, you seem to have some real concerns about this matchup. What have you found?
Oh my God. Let's just start off by saying that when Michigan boy went down with his injury in the offseason,
JJ McCarthy.
Yes, JJ McCarthy. Everybody expected the Vikings to be in a rebuilding year.
Yeah.
And what they've done, the way Kevin McConnell has gotten Sam Darnold to basically have a career year where it sounds like he's probably going to get paid in free agency because he's on a 1-year, $6 million contract for the Vikings. And he's playing out of his mind. Okay. One of the best quarterbacks against pressure in the NFL this year, but there's some stats that concern me, and I want to go through some of them. Credit to PFF and Next Gen Stats on these. So I know everybody hates PFF, but there's some good reference points in here. So Seattle's cornerbacks over the last month, 52.6 cornerback coverage rate, which is one of the worst in the NFL. It's bottom 5. Okay. Last week was 29.6, which is about accurate considering Tariq Woolen got picked on and everybody was disastrous. That was one of the lowest in Seattle history of PFF tracking ever. Okay. So we talked about zone versus man coverage. Seattle plays a lot of zone, 81% of the time, roughly. One of the main guys that everybody is concerned about, obviously, outside of Justin Jefferson, is Jordan Addison. I mentioned him earlier in the podcast. He excels against zone coverage if you haven't watched him this year. He's excellent at contested catches, but this is the interesting part. So Sam Darnold and him as a QB wide receiver combo have faced zone coverage at the 3rd highest rate this season. Okay. 3rd highest rate this season. And remember, the Seahawks play zone about 80% of the time, roughly. When targeting Jordan Addison this season in zone coverage, Darnold has thrown 7 touchdowns, the 3rd most in the NFL, with a positive combined expected EPA of 36.9, which is ranked 4th among quarterback and receiver combinations. So there's a real good chance our secondary struggles pretty poorly on Sunday. So I'm not the bearer of positivity and happiness right now, to be frank. So
I think one of the things that's interesting about the Vikings, we've spent a lot of time talking about John Schneider's free agent class this year and some of the past years, right? Listen to the Vikings free agent class from this year. Sam Darnold, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Greenard, who was just Defensive Player of the Month, Andrew Van Ginkel, their other best pass rusher, Blake Cashman, who's been like a Pro Bowl level middle linebacker, Jihad Ward, who's also been a good pass rusher, Shaquille Griffin, cornerback, good old Shaquille Griffin revenge game coming up this weekend. There's probably others, but those are the first ones that came to mind. That's to me what you can get, excuse me, when you have a coaching staff. Like Flores clearly was aligned with the front office about what kind of players he wanted. And the hopeful tone I'll strike there is, what are the moves that John Schneider's made in the season with Mike McDonald? I think almost all of them have been good. And so maybe this offseason we can hope that there'll be a little bit more alignment between what the front office goes out and gets and what the coaching staff actually needs.
I like that take.
Nathan, what do you think about this matchup?
I mean, I think the positive here is they get another chance. They get another bite of the apple. Like they get another shot at bouncing back and saying, hey, what happened in that Packers game is not like the real deal. But it's hard to see them winning this game. Like it doesn't feel like there's, I mean, you tell me, is there a matchup here that feels favorable to Seattle? Like Flores and the pressure and like this offensive line, that feels like a nightmare before you even get into whether Geno can go this week. All the defensive stats that Evan just rattled off, like it doesn't feel like, beyond just like team quality and like specific matchup wise, it doesn't feel like this is a game that Seattle should play well, just knowing what we know about them.
The only note I'll make is Brian O'Neill, their right tackle, is a stud. He left last week injured. Brian, have you seen any injury updates on him?
Yeah, he left. He came back. He left again, came back with a knee brace, played. He is expected to play this week. Jalen Redmond, though, their kind of like emerging stud defensive tackle, did not practice today with concussion. Usually we don't practice on Wednesday with concussion protocol. That's not usually a particularly good sign that you're going to play that week. But that is so offensively, I agree with you, Nathan. There's not a lot where I'm like, that's the good matchup. Even like JSN against, what is it, Sean Murphy Bunting, or who's their guy over there? I should know this, but let me make sure I get this right. It is Byron Murphy, the other Byron Murphy. That's who it is, not Sean Murphy Bunting, the other Byron Murphy. He is the top DVOA cover cornerback through week 15. So that's a tough matchup. But defensively, what did the Packers do to win that game?
I mean,
what did the Packers do on offense? What did the Packers do offensively to win that game against Seattle?
Ran the ball pretty well.
Vikings are not a good run team. They're not a good run team. They're not nearly as good. And their offensive line, nowhere near as good. And their ability to either run block or pass protect is an issue. And I think that the most optimistic, I think, thing I could put out there would be that the Seahawks front seven manhandles them the way they did against every pretty much offensive line for the last month and a half before facing the Packers. And if you can get into a game that's like a 16-6 or a 13-7 kind of game, then who knows, funny things can happen.
What two things need to happen on Sunday for the Seahawks to win this football game? Have to happen. Must happen.
No.
I think the defense has to play well.
Yeah.
You have to win the turnover margin. I think you have to.
Geno can't do the dumb turnovers.
No.
And he had a horrible one.
I think 0 turnovers might be required.
Yeah.
And it might require also to get a turnover, to like win the turnover battle, which Sam Darnold will do. He will give you one or 3.
He'll turn into a pumpkin every once in a while.
I've got this weird feeling that the Seahawks, like the Vikings run defense has been insanely good. I didn't realize how good it was until I started looking into it. I am like, for some reason, I think the Seahawks might have a decent run game in this one. The only thing I could say that would give me some reason to believe that on the Vikings side, their last 3 games, they've given up 142 yards per game rushing.
Oh, wow.
2 of the games was over 150 yards rushing. So they have like weakened the last 3 weeks. But man, like even that crap game, there was still like Charbonnet had a 16-yard run early and then he disappeared. And then he has the 24-yard touchdown. Like those plays don't happen even in blowout games when you don't have something working. Like, I don't know. It's
going to have
crazy
their best,
to think Grubb will do it though.
They're going to have their best running back on the field too. They get Ken McIntosh out there.
I think Nathan's referring to the fact that Zach Charbonnet did not practice today, and it listed an oblique muscle. Adam Schefter said Charbonnet didn't practice with an oblique injury, and I'm like, dude, like DK hasn't been practicing for a month with a shoulder injury. It hasn't meant anything on Wednesdays. Like, get back to me tomorrow or Friday, but we'll see. Maybe there's something going on there. Let's get to predictions. We've got some super chats I will look at as well. Actually, you guys think about your predictions. Let me.
Yeah, King Mix, I'll do it in front of Brian's house.
I do not want to see that. I don't think there's people that do, but I do not. Let's run through these real quick. Jose says we're not ready yet. We need a real OC and real O-line. Droidian says my guess is the loudest critics of season ticket holders weren't paying $1,000 for 2 tickets to watch the Seahawks get embarrassed on national TV. Get that. Dogzilla says maybe you could try it Pass Pro. I don't know what that means, but okay. Video Game Sports says we need to consider trading Reek this offseason. I brought this up before this season.
I was going to say, this is going to be the thing we do every offseason. Every offseason, we're going to talk about trading DK and we're going to talk about trading Reek, and it'll never happen.
Reek loves hanging out in Miami. And there's a lot of clubs in Miami.
Moving on, Joseph says, are we done with Schneider after this year's free agency and how poor the O-line has been since 2015? Derek is clearly funding Joseph's super chats. Do any of you guys think that Schneider's going to be done after this year?
No,
I don't think so. Moshi Mas says, what's more likely this game? Reek gets his first interception since early November or DK gets his first touchdown since late October? Good question.
I think Rake probably.
Yeah, I'd go with that too.
Get
Same.
Arnold, pumpkin him. Maybe something stupid happens.
Jordan says this is a Falcons game. I don't know what that means either.
Like against us? Like the Vikings are going to do what we did to the Falcons in Atlanta?
I don't know. That I didn't follow that one. All right, let's get to predictions. Nathan, you go first. What is going to be the score of this game?
I'm feeling a little doomery on this one. I'm going to say 27-17. I think I am very worried that this team is going to hit a skid similar to the one early in the season. This seems to be a McDonald thing where he has good stretches and bad stretches. Hopefully the second half of that Packers game means he can steer out of the skid. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot going against Seattle in this game. So I think it could be a bit of a blowout.
I do not have any reason to be confident that the Seattle Seahawks are going to win this football game whatsoever. In fact, I have a lot of confidence in the fact that they might get blown out. The vibes are bad. The data's bad. The matchup is bad. The team is the opponent is one of the best teams in football right now, coached by probably the coach of the year, frankly. I'm going Vikings 36, Seahawks 17. I think it's going to be bad.
Those are both logical predictions. And everything I've found indicates that that is probably the direction this will go. If you played this game 100 times, probably get that result or something close to it the majority of the times. I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to say that this is going to be one of those minority narratives that comes out of this, and the Seahawks actually find a way to get back to what they were before this Packers game defensively. Maybe they get another turnover, another turnover score on defense, and that they're going to run the ball somehow. It's going to be really weird. It's not going to make any sense. The Seahawks are going to run the ball, and I have the Seahawks. I will take the Seahawks to win this game 21-17. That's yes, Evan. Go ahead.
Postgame show should be interesting when we bring up that prediction.
I know. You know what? I'll admit part of this is, hearing that your own fans are all predicting blowout losses is not fun. So let's have a little bit of hope injected in the conversation.
So you're hoping, and Nathan and I are coping.
Potentially, yes. Nathan doesn't like that at all. I can see it in his face. All right, folks. Thanks to everybody who came along for the ride this evening. Thanks to Evan Hill at Evan Hill HB, Nathan Ernst at Nathan E11. Make sure you follow them and tune in tomorrow morning. I will be up bright and early with Mike Randall of FTN Fantasy. See you then, and then we will be back with Mike Sando on Friday. So all sorts of good stuff coming up. See you all very soon. Take care.